Good morning, everyone. They tell a story about this guy who turned 100 years old. And they asked him, what's the best part of being 100? And he said, there's no more peer pressure. Every one of us is influenced by our peers, whether positively or negatively. Last week's Torah portion and this week's Torah portion is a story about influence, both negative and positive. You see, we all have three spheres of influence. The first one is our society, our leaders. Last week's Torah portion was the story of the 12 spies, and 10 leaders out of the 12 leaders who went on the mission came back with a negative report about the land of Israel and discouraged and disheartened the entire nation from going into the land of Israel. And as a result of that, the entire nation of Israel had to wander 40 years in the desert. Why? Because of the influence of 10 bad spies who changed the hearts and the minds of the entire nation and brought about such grave consequences. That is the example of negative leadership influence. In this week's Torah portion, we read the story of Korach. And here we have an example of the second sphere of influence. The second circle of influence is your community members, your neighbors. And the Torah says that Korach took members of his tribe of Levi, and he took Dasan, Aviran, and Om ben Peles from the tribe of Reuven to join him in his rebellion against Moses. And our rabbis and Rashi quotes it says, why did he take those individuals? Because they were from the tribe of Reuven, and Reuven dwelled, encamped in the desert next to the tribe of Levi, next to Korach. And because they were neighbors, he influenced his neighbors. And Rashi says the famous words, O l'rasha, O l'shcheno, woe to the wicked person, woe to his neighbor. And so here we see the negative influence of bad neighbors. But we also have an example of positive influence. You see, one of the people who was mentioned was On ben Peles, but we never find that he died with the rebellious group. And the reason is why? Because the rabbis tell us that when he came home, he told his wife, tomorrow I'm going with Korach, we have 250 people, we're going to rebel against Moses. And his wife said, why are you getting involved in this dispute? Stay out of it, it's between Korach and Moses. It has nothing to do with you. And he kept on arguing, no, I'm going to go and challenge Moses. And so she gave him some good drink, hard drink. He fell asleep, overslept the next morning. And when Korach came to gather him from his tent, she and her daughter stood by the door of the tent, dressed immodestly in their night gowns. And when Korach saw them, he left and never took him along. And she saved him his life. And here we see the positive influence of a good wife, a good spouse, a family member. Sometimes we look at a situation, we say, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do to change that person or that situation. And it's true. We don't have power over other people. Everyone has their free choice. But we all have influence on others. And we have to utilize our influence in a positive way. Today is the yahrzeit of a very great rabbi who died a number of years ago. He was an amazing educator. His name was Rabbi David Trink. And he was known for his beautiful love and compassion for every student. And there's a story told about him that on a Friday night he was once walking through Lakewood, New Jersey, which is a very religious community. And there was a group of boys and girls who were not keeping Shabbat. They were hanging out in the park, smoking on Shabbat, drinking. And everyone else would walk by and look at them with disgust. When he saw this group of boys and girls, he quickly went to his home and came back with a Monopoly game. And he went into the park on a Friday night, this rabbi, and he said, let's play Monopoly. And he sat down on the floor with these boys and girls and spent an hour and a half playing a game of Monopoly. He didn't talk about Shabbat, he didn't talk about Judaism, he just played a loving game of Monopoly with these teens. And one of them later went on to become observant again, religious, got married, started a family. And he said, one of the greatest experiences, the most meaningful experiences I've ever had in my life was that hour and a half the Rabbi Trank sat on the floor with us and just showed us love and played with us with such compassion and didn't judge us. That has influenced me more than anything else. Every one of us can think about examples of something our parents said when we were younger or did, or our teachers that had a big impact on us. And you wonder, did our parents know when they were saying it or doing it, how much this would impact us, how we would carry this memory and this example, and it would inspire us decades later? Most probably they didn't even realize. They were just being themselves, being good, and that touched us. The same thing is true with us. We never know when we're going to impact someone or influence someone positively. Yes, we may not have power, but we all have the gift of positive influence, and we have to utilize it properly. Have a wonderful day.